Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Shotgun for McElry with backs to either side. It'll be a give to Brady Powell up the middle, and he is into the end zone. Touchdown, Bearcats. That's for you, Jeff Williams.
I stepped over my own call here, but we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. On that call there, we paid tribute to the late OG of Aledo Bearcats football, Jeff Williams here. We also welcome you to, again, our new home for this podcast, Parker County Brewing Company. This will be the home for the 2025-26 school year. We continue to thank everyone here for their support of being the home for this podcast. And again, another thank you to our two main sponsors, between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. They are back for another year. We also appreciate their support of the podcast and Aledo Athletics. Aledo is now 1-0 following its 21-14 slugfest win over Denton Guyer. Guyer leads this series now 4-3, but the Bearcats have won 2 of the last 3 meetings. Always comes down to the end between these two, and it has for the last 3 seasons. Talk about that more with Coach Jones in just a few moments. Aledo continues the 2025 season. First road game of the year is this coming Friday in South Dallas County. It'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff at Beverly D. Humphrey Tiger Stadium in Lancaster against the 0-1 Tigers, another Class 6A opponent, a game you can hear on 92.1 Hank FM. Pre-game show is at 6:30. Aledo won the first meeting in Eastern Parker County last year, 37-27. Bearcats remain the number 1 team in Class 5A Division I in the Texas high school football rankings. As always, we have 2 segments for you in this show. We'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones, and we will review the Guyer win and look ahead to Friday. In our second segment, we will be joined by 2 seniors, the other 2 captains, safety Lamel Swanson and quarterback/wide receiver Lincoln Tubbs. Both of them will be playing college football next year, but they will also be with United States Service Academies. More about that later. All right, Coach, thanks for being with us. And it had to have that 21-14 win, had to have that old school feel to it. I know everyone has been used to high-scoring games with you guys and with Guyer, big chunk plays like we've seen the previous 2 years, but it's been a while since we've seen that. But what was your overall takeaway when you broke down the film and just watching the game in review?
Yeah, when we went into the game, we knew it could be a similar game to what it turned out to be, but just the feel of the game, I felt like, the score was a lot closer than what the game actually was. Our defense went out and played lights out. We executed sometimes on offense, and then other times we didn't. So, we just felt like, it was a great team victory because, we did come out on top, but there was chances out there for us to get more points, and we left some points out on the field.
Well, there's always the drama between you and Guyer, too. It came down to the last couple of minutes. Of course, we saw how the last 2 years were decided. You all kicked the game-winning field goal 2 years ago, and then you all ran out of time last year in the few seconds you got to midfield last year. I think what we did find out from this game is that you must feel even better about your defense than what you felt about it before the season started.
Yeah, you can tell by the way they played, and then we were also missing one of our pieces. Carson Dempsey didn't play, which, and the big thing with that was it left Cooper Cyphers out on the field almost the entire game, and normally we could get him some rest. And you could tell there in the fourth quarter late, especially when Guyer was trying to go to score to tie it up, that Cooper didn't have the same, push that he had earlier in the game. So, we feel really good about, the way the defense played. We just got to continue to do that week in, week out.
Minus that 4th down conversion with them, that broken 49-yard touchdown pass, you all really hemmed them in. Corbin Glasgow, who was a thorn in your side in the previous 2 games, really no factor in this ball game. Running back Caden Cobbs, who is an exciting running back, no factor as well. You all got the pressure that you wanted to on Zephyr Cry, their quarterback, all night. What else did you see?
One of the things that I saw was we had a couple of missed tackles. If we didn't have those missed tackles, they wouldn't have those 14 points. So that was one of the things that Coach McCone's been working on the last couple of days, is making sure we don't have those missed tackles. I know Coach Hodge brought out one of the big donuts yesterday, and doing some tackling drills and making sure that we're not missing those tackles anymore.
I thought the two big stats of the night were these. Guyer was 1 of 13 on third down and then scored 0 points on your 2 turnovers. That's meeting the expectations when they're demanded.
Yeah, I mean, that was huge. You know, that was probably the difference in the game, was the fact that, when we did turn the ball over those 2 times, which is one of the keys to the game, is not turn the ball over. We put them in scoring position when we did that, and both times the defense stepped up and basically kept them from getting any points. The first time we were able to turn them over on downs, and then that last time Alex Patton blocked the field goal.
Right, and I think that might be the more impressive of the two. Both of them impressive in their own right, but that one maybe more so because of the fact that the pick was returned inside your red zone down to the 14-yard line. You all make that stand. I actually kind of thought that Reed Heim might go for it on 4th down there. Instead, he sent the field goal unit out there. And then, of course, when Alex blocks the chip shot field goal, you guys run with that momentum, and then you take it down and score. So just the way it just seemed like they were feeding into each other, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it gave the offense a little momentum to go into that next drive. So it was a great opportunity for us, to see the defense go out there and get a stop, no points, and then the offense take it from there and go get some points.
The front for this defense makes all the difference, always has in Aledo history, but quite a bit last year, and I think the expectations are equally high, if not higher, for this year. But I think we saw the coming of age of junior Max Foreman in place of Carson Dempsey at defensive end. Carson will be back this week for Lancaster, but this is what Max had. The junior had a sack, 6 hurries, probably stuffed the stat sheet, if you will, and just his presence felt. And I would have to think that you take from his performance of saying, we got something here, even though we knew what we knew about him. But when you see it against a quality opponent like that, it just kind of ticks a little bit higher, I would suspect.
I mean, we were really impressed with the way Max played, but we were kind of expecting that out of him. We knew what kind of football player he is. He was a linebacker. He's been a linebacker his entire career. We moved him. He's gotten a little bit bigger. Towards the end of the last year, he broke his leg, missed the last part of the season last year. Got bigger, and that's one of the things the Foremans do. The Foremans grow. His brother, was kind of a small guy until going into his junior year, and he just blew up and became like 6'3" all of a sudden. So we know the Foremans get a little bit bigger, when they get to their junior, senior year. And, so we moved him there to that defensive end because it was a need spot. And he gave us the confidence to, use him to spell Cooper and Carson when we need to, which, I just mentioned the fact that Cooper was out on the field pretty much the entire game, and then that made it to where in the fourth quarter he wasn't as effective as he was in the first and second quarter.
And you bring up an interesting point, too, because ultimately the number of snaps you want your starters to play on that front. Do you all actually have a number of that you'd like to have them play, or is it kind of a feel thing that Brad and his staff have to kind of do? Yeah,
it's kind of a feel thing. Last year we had the luxury of having those 4 defensive tackles, and they knew that after 3 plays they were coming out. So we were keeping them fresh the entire game. We didn't do that as much in that first game, but you're going to start seeing a little bit more, of that. Hey, let's get the 2s in there. Let's keep those defensive linemen fresh, because that's big, is having those defensive linemen fresh.
Sure. And I think with Max's performance, the fact that he gives you also greater flexibility on the edge, you've got him lined up behind Carson this week, but you could easily flip him over behind Cooper as well.
Yeah, he can go over there, or we can bring in one of the other defensive ends. Casey Miller went out there, got some quality reps. We're not afraid to throw Ethan Marchalinsky out there. So we got several guys out there. That's the luxury of coaching in Aledo, is you have a lot of really good football players. It's good to have.
All right, so we talked about this a few moments ago, about you took advantage, your offense taking advantage of the 2 big stops by the defense. First play of the season is the fumble by Caden, unfortunately, but we'll talk about that in a second. But then after the defense makes the stop, your offense marches it down and scores on Brady Powell's short run. And then, of course, we talked about going 80 yards after the blocked field goal. I'm sure that those were a lot of things that you used as teaching lessons, too, for this offense, too, and saying this is where we can really make our bread and butter if we are consistent enough playing and play out, because of what these 2 drives looked like.
Yeah, I mean, terrible start to the game, with a fumble on the very first play. But, that was one of the things that we really wanted to establish going into that game was the run game. After the way, we performed in the run game against Denton Ryan last year, we wanted to make sure that we were better at the run game, and that's been a focus. Now, the next phase is now we got to get better at the passing game because we have some really good receivers out there. And we need to be able to get the ball out there to some of those playmakers that we have out wide.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about this quarterback situation being still a work in progress. Lincoln and Nash McElree only combined for 45 yards. But what were your impressions and what's it been like in preparing, using them in preparation for Lancaster this week?
Yeah, I mean, both those guys went out and competed. That was the main thing. We had a couple of mistakes, but they competed. They were able to get the victory, which was the main thing, was to get the victory. But, we see good things in both of them, and we're going to continue to work, and we're going to continue to, work, around what they do best, and get them out there to help us win football games.
And you want to stay with the plan for what you used last week with Guyer? Just maybe Lincoln gets the first series and then kind of go from there, or how do you? What's kind of the thinking this week going into Lincoln?
We're not real sure. It's depending on what Coach Williams feels like he wants to do. That first series. So we haven't even really discussed, which one was going to go take the first snap this week. But if you remember correctly, in that first drive that we had that went all the way down the field. I think both of them played in that drive.
Exactly.
So Coach Williams, how he feels on where he's about to go with the play call, he's going to, sub them in and out.
Yeah, I think Nash hit Lincoln on a pretty big pass play in that first scoring drive.
I don't know if it was the first. I can't remember that far back, but
I'm trying to remember as well.
I know that there was a big pass, quarterback to quarterback, basically.
Okay, so in terms of that, though, but again, is it still kind of the thinking that you'd like? Again, nothing's set in stone. Everyone has these plans until you actually see it on film.
Right.
But do you think you can try and get to a decision before the district opener, before Brewer, or do you think that's going to extend a little bit longer?
It may go a little bit longer. We're not, pressing saying we got to have the decision made before we go into the Brewer game. But, it looks like it could be, a season where they're both playing quite a bit of quarterback.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the one thing is about this team is that they always find a way to just get it done. I mean, you and I were talking about this last year, the 2009 state championship team between Trey Ozee and Matt Bishop and how they went back and forth. So it's been done before. It's just a matter of knowing how to manage it, I should say, and then getting the most out of each of those two young men and their skill set, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch over to you real quickly about Caden and his senior leadership because – again, we talked about, unfortunately, fumbles on the first play of the season, but the way he bounced back from that and delivered a performance, 85 yards, the 2 touchdowns, I think that kind of shows you a lot about what character means and not let a play like that define you, that you keep plugging, you keep going, that sort of thing. And that's, I would think, too, that kind of speaks to what you all were talking about after the 2024 season and the things that you were building on throughout the course of this offseason.
Yeah, I think Caden Wingfield was disappointed in himself, fumbling that ball on that very first snap. So he wanted to go out, and prove to his teammates that he's not going to let them down. And he went out and he competed his tail off. He made 1 or 2 really, really good runs, that showed, what type of running back he is.
How has he changed, do you think, in terms of his running ability from last year?
I know he's stronger, so he's going to break more tackles. And that was one of the things that led to some of his big runs, because the type of defense that Guyer plays, once you get past the D-line, there's 3 safeties there, and he was able to, run through some of their tackles on those big runs.
And with him and obviously using Brady Powell, and so you'll have the opportunity with Lincoln running the football. Do you kind of have an idea of that you can use all these guys? Your running game has so many options. I know you didn't use Jeremiah Johnson. You still want to try and get him in there, but that's kind of your early thinking about your running game and all the different possibilities you have there.
I mean, we can't just rely on one guy. We got to have several guys going, and that's the plan going in. Lincoln's going to get a lot of carries from the quarterback spot, and then also, Caden's going to take most of the running back reps. But, Brady had pretty good runs as well.
He did.
So, we're pretty pleased with that phase of the football game.
I asked you a moment ago, of course, how Caden's changed, but how about Brady? How has he changed from last year to this year?
I can't really say how Brady's changed. Brady's always been a consistent guy. You know, he's going to be there. He's going to put in the work. He's going to do everything he's asked to do, and he does a really good job of blocking when we ask him to block. And you know, he's a strong runner. You know, he was running through some arm tackles, and you know, so he's kind of doing the things that we've always expected out of Brady.
Yeah, witness that on the first touchdown of the year, the short plunge to give you guys your first 7 points of the season. Okay, so let's talk about Lancaster. They had a back-and-forth contest last week with the reigning 6A Division I state champion in North Crowley. North Crowley won that game 22-18. Panthers scored late to pull it out. What do you see on film besides what we always know with Lancaster, speed, athleticism? They can find a way to move all over the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you see. You know, you see the fact that, you know, they don't just play 4 defensive backs. They'll roll other guys in, and the guys they're rolling in are just as good as the ones that were starting the game. I believe second series of the game they got an interception, and it was one of the backup corners, and, you know, and then they'd say he was a 3-star recruit. I'm like, wow, crap. They got a 3-star, you know, recruit as their backup.
Right.
You know, that says, you know, they've got very deep backfield, you know, in the back end. And so that's going to make it a little more difficult throwing the football, the fact that they do have such good defensive backs. We are going to work on the passing game a little bit this week. So, you know, we'll test them out a little bit. But we still need to run the football.
Sure. By the way, we should point out, too, with Lancaster that they will not have one of their better players available to them in a transfer from Mesquite Horn by the name of Markel Ford. He's a commitment to SMU, but he's still looking to get cleared, so you guys won't see him. But go ahead.
You got inside information on that?
As far as I know, he's not going to be able to play. That's the last I heard of it. In fact, I heard that out today. But, you know, we could show up on Friday with him in the lineup and that sort of thing. Yeah. But to your point, though, about how talented this team is, D1 talent. Running back Isaiah Lee has committed to Vanderbilt. They have a junior running back by the name of Victor Scott who's collecting some P4 offers. Sophomore safety by the name of James Foster III in the same boat. So their running game is going to be pretty daunting. Even though they only had about 110 yards on the ground last week against North Crowley, they're talented in that backfield.
Oh yeah, and North Crowley has a really good defense.
Yes,
you know that's a big reason why they didn't have that many yards. Is the fact that North Crowley has such a good defense. But, you know, the run game's going to be tough to stop. They have 2 really dynamic running backs, you know, that if we give them a crease, you know, they're probably going to take it to the house. They're that fast. And they split Lee out into the slot now this year. So they'll both be on the field at the same time. And we got to be aware of where both of those guys are because, like you said, you know, they can take it to the house at any point.
Absolutely. And their quarterback, Hairston, he's big kid, about 6'4", 250 or 190 pounds, different from what you saw last year. So what did you see from him on film? He didn't throw it a lot last week.
Didn't throw it a lot. You know, he runs the ball. They have another quarterback, 14, will also come in and play some quarterback, and he's one of those dudes that has that track speed that can take off and run with it, and they run it with him, kind of like we do when we got Lincoln in the game.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, both guys can make a difference with their legs as well as their arm.
Okay. And then defensively, the thing I noticed about Lancaster against North Crowley last week is they forced 3 turnovers against them. One of those actually was when North Crowley had a goal-to-go situation. I think they turned them over at their 5-yard line or at their own 5-yard line. What did you see from those and how they were able to be ball hawks there and things that you're going to have to work on with your offense to secure it?
Yeah, that's the thing is, you know, we can't just, you know, throw one up because those guys can go get it, you know. So that's, you know, one of the problems with working on the passing game and against these guys is the fact that they do have some extremely talented defensive backs that go get the football. So we've got to make sure that we're taking care of the football and not putting it out there where they can go get it, where our receivers can go get it.
Sure, and one thing I've noticed about with Leon Paul's program is the fact that, you know, and who he plays, he doesn't really care about getting his nose bloodied, win or lose in his non-district. He just wants to get his team ready for district play. Of course, he's in the District of Doom with DeSoto and Duncanville, Cedar Hills, excuse me. So when you do that, you have to play teams like yourselves or North Crowley so you can understand what your team is going to face later on in October.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the few guys that reached out to us to see if we wanted to play them, you know. So, yeah, he's not afraid to go out and play the big boys, and he is one of the big boys. He's in the one of the top 25 teams in Class 6A. Probably was higher than that, and lost to North Crowley, which is not a bad thing.
No.
And they had chances to win the football game. If they don't have two busted coverages that give North Crowley a receiver that's just running wide open down the field for touchdowns, they have a chance to beat them.
It should be interesting. As we wrap this up, just a couple of things that you feel like your team has to kind of fine-tune before you guys make the drive, bus drive down to South Dallas County.
Yeah, we've got to get more comfortable throwing the football. That's going to be a big key in this game. You can't just go out and run the football every game because people are going to start stacking the box on you. And when they do that, we have the receivers out wide that we can take advantage of that. So we got to make sure that we're doing a better job throwing the football this week.
Yeah, I noticed too that last week in the opener, probably because it was an opener and you really wanted to know what you had with both Nash and with Lincoln, a lot of safe, high percentage type of throws, bubble screens, that sort of thing. And it sounds like to me the way you're talking about this, that you need to kind of be a little bit more vertical if you can find your right time to do that.
I mean, we had some open receivers. We just didn't see them. We went to the other side of the field with our read, and then on the back side we had some guys that were running open in the secondary. And we just need to make sure that we're, and that comes with experience. They're going to start seeing that, and they're going to start hitting those wide open receivers. All
right, well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck in this week of work going down to Lancaster on Friday night, and continued success, and we'll look forward to it then.
I appreciate it.
All right, and we want to remind you, too, that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. Second segment of the podcast will be here with Lincoln Tubbs and Lamel Swanson. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Back after this timeout.
Man comes in motion. That is Glasgow. Snap coming to Cry. He takes it. Short drop, pressure, breaks away, but he will not get away a fourth time. And the Bearcats stand him up. It's technically a sack.
And that was one of the key stops for the Aledo defense in the fourth quarter as they turned away Denton Guyer's offense and held on to a 21-14 victory to open the season last Friday at Tim Buchanan Stadium. Welcome back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. A reminder that the Bearcats are on the road this coming Friday down in South Dallas County. 7 o'clock kickoff against the Lancaster Tigers. You can hear it all on 92.1 Hank FM. Pre-game show will start at 6:30. Couple of Aledo notables from folks that have graduated from the program playing football at the Division I level. We'll start with quarterback Hoss Haney. Got off to a great start in his debut as the starting quarterback for Oklahoma State last week against UT Martin. A week ago, it was actually on Thursday, threw for a touchdown, ran for one. Unfortunately, he wound up breaking his foot in the first quarter. The hope is that he will be ready to return in October, but some of the highlights that I saw from Hoss in that game is like, that looked like the guy that I saw in 2023. So hopefully for him a speedy recovery. And defensive tackle Ansel Dimbu, who had began his career at Washington State and transferred over to TCU during this offseason, made his debut for the Horned Frog defense on Monday in their dominating 48-14 victory over North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Dimbu with 2 solo tackles. One of those was a tackle for loss. Now we are joined in on our second segment with the other 2 captains of this 2025 Aledo Bearcats football team. That is quarterback / I'm going to just call him the Swiss Army knife, Lincoln Tubbs, the senior, and punt return specialist, although he's really frustrated because he didn't get to return it last week, and safety Lamel Swanson. Guys, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having us.
Sir, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the Guyer finish because obviously, Lamel, you guys are out on the field right at the end. And really just I think the one thing about this team that I saw is the fact that when you guys made those stops, following the turnovers, how the offense responded. And that kind of it picks you up, too, because you just helped them out when they went through some adversity. But what does that do for a defense when your offense capitalizes on that from the momentum turning play, and then they take it down and get points from that?
I think it shifts the momentum a lot. Us getting a stop and then the offense scoring, it picks us all up as a team. It makes us feel better about how we win.
All right, and then the fourth down stops in the fourth quarter. 2 big ones for you guys, especially right at the end with about 2 minutes to go. What did that do? Because you guys had really shut them down all night, minus one broken play on a fourth down earlier in the fourth quarter when they made it 21-14. But when it was asked, when your best was required, you guys delivered. What did that mean for this defense, though, to put this one on ice and just and go into victory formation after that?
It meant a lot. We had to step up. It was on the interception that we were in the red zone, so we had to step up, make a big play, and we did for the offense, and we blocked the field goal and made a great stop.
All right, Lincoln, for you, obviously, with this offense, obviously it's still kind of a work in progress, but for you guys, did it almost feel like you owed the defense something when they got those stops off the turnovers? Because that's the way you guys played with them, and those drives were so crisp. Take me through both of those possessions. The first one that ended on Brady Powell's touchdown run, and then, of course, the second on Caden's first touchdown run.
100%. It makes the game a lot easier when defense is playing lights out like they were. I feel like they set the tone for sure, because after that fumble, they went out there and told Guyer, like, you're not going to score here. And so it's definitely good having the feeling of them having our back.
Yeah, and I would think, too, the way that second turnover on the pick down in the red zone where you guys made the stop and then Alex Patton blocks the field goal. Just talk about the sideline energy from that play, because you guys just, boom, 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 right down the field, 80 yards. So what was that like?
Yeah, it gives us momentum, especially when they're all running out to the sidelines, jump in, getting all hyped up. It gets you ready for the drive, and I feel like we were a hot knife and butter from there.
All right. You both are seniors. You've seen it before. And I asked this question of Caden Finley as well as Chase Wilburn last week about now that you're seniors. You saw the seniors go through what they went through last year, but now it's your turn. What is that? I'm going to ask you about the urgency, the finality. It's the first time to do something for the last time. What's that been like going through the offseason and then playing your last first game? What was that like for you at Lamel? And this whole offseason, too.
I think the seniors before us, they set an example, so it was just our time to step up. As we're captains, our time to lead, be leaders of the team, pick the team up, and, just set a good example for the team.
All right, and then what about for you, Lincoln?
That means a lot. This last everything it's huge, because we've seen it happen in front of us for so long, and the fact that it's our last ride now, it means a lot, and we're going to go out there and put everything we got.
Is it kind of freaky that it is the last? Does it make you appreciate how fast time moves? Because yeah. I can remember when you guys were going through middle school too, and so now here you are. Does it feel like just like in a snap of a finger?
Oh yeah, just like a snap. Like other day, I saw a picture on my phone of me handing the ball off to Lamel freshman year, and that feels like it was a week ago.
Yeah.
And so it's going fast.
Did you handle it correctly on the handoff, or how'd that go?
Yes, I did. I used to play running back in the day. So.
Okay, all right. Earning captain honors, you join obviously Chase and Caden with that. What did that mean to both of you, earning that from your teammates? I'll start with you on this, Lamel.
I think it means a lot. Coach Jones give us papers, and the team writes the names. So I think it means that my team thinks I can be a leader, and they project me as the leader of the team and one of the leaders and captains of the team. So it means a lot.
And then what about for you, Lincoln?
Yeah, it's a huge blessing, because me and Lamel both have been around this group and in this group for so long. Mm-hmm. And for us to be named captains, it means a lot. And that we understand the role as a captain, and we got to go lead the locker room and lead everywhere we're at.
We touched on the offseason a few moments ago, but I want to kind of explore that a little bit further with you, because following that obviously difficult loss to Ryan in the state quarterfinals, there just seemed to be an energy of, not to say that no Aledo team has ever not been focused, because if you do what this program has done since 2009, it kind of speaks for itself. But there just seemed to be that the energy was more crisp, or things of that nature. Can you guys talk about what this offseason was like? I'll start with you on this.
I would say it definitely leaves a chip on the shoulder, mm-hmm. and it's an awful feeling, and you know what that feels like. And so having that in the back of your mind all off season, working up to this year, I mean, you're always thinking about it. You don't want that feeling back. And so it definitely creates a tone of energy going into each workout and film study, everything.
What about for you, Lamel?
I think, like Lincoln said, it leaves a chip on your shoulder. You know, we still think about the December loss, and it sets a tone wherever we go, in the locker room, in the weight room, like you were saying, in the off season. It set a tone. I feel like this summer we really came together as a team. I think last year it wasn't as like together. You know, we had a little bit of ups and downs. So I think that loss really brought us together.
And something that both Caden and Chase talked about was, and I've talked about this with Coach too, about it's one thing about having accountability to the coaches, but it's you guys being accountable to each other, that sort of thing. Can you speak to that? I'll start with you on this, Lincoln.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're put in racks, four people to a rack, like that accountability part you're talking about is when they're struggling, like you pick them up. And I definitely felt a change in that in the weight room this year. You know, everyone is just thriving for each other. Everyone wants good for each other because we all have the same goal and we all want to accomplish that goal.
Sure. And then what about for you, Lamel?
Yep, we all have the same goal, win state. So I think everybody has that mindset to pick each other up, keep each other going forward, you know, all eyes forward ahead. So, yeah.
All right. We want to celebrate you, for you gentlemen, your accomplishments individually, because making these collegiate decisions to play at the Division I. First of all, each of you has the unique opportunity to play at the Division I level. Actually, you'll be playing each other too, and against each other in college too. We'll get to that here in a few moments. So the Commanders and Chief Trophy is going to be on the line once you all get up there, but we'll get to that in a second. But the unique thing about this is, since Lamel has committed to the United States Military Academy, he's going to be a Black Knight on the Hudson up in New York, and then Lincoln's going to be has committed to the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, so he's going to be a Falcon. But it's one thing to be playing college football, but then there's the discipline too, because of the long-term commitment after that. 5 years, I think it is, afterwards.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So it's not only that, but let's talk about that, because these are, and I'm going to use a name that you probably heard, Lamel, when you were taking your OV at West Point, was the name Douglas MacArthur. Does that name? Okay. Where he had the phrase duty, honor, country, and talking about that sort of thing. And that's kind of like what it is here in this 5-year commitment, that sort of thing. I want to ask you, I'll start with you on this, Lincoln, just about what this opportunity means to not only continue your education, but to do it to play football, but then to serve your country for 5 years after that. What does that mean to you?
It means the world to me. I have some military background in my family, and so the thought of that is so cool to me. I get to do something I love, which is playing football, and also serve the country that I love. And so it's like 2 in 1. It's couldn't go wrong.
I had a chance, by the way, to talk to Jack Tregellis' mom, because Jack is up there right now. He's finishing up, and he's certified pilot, and he wants to fly the new F-35s. You ever had a chance to talk to him, or do you want to be a pilot, or what are kind of your long-term goals about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to being a pilot. When I was on my visit, the coaches said the opportunity will present itself while I'm there, and so I'm definitely open to it, but we'll see when I get up there.
Sure. All right, yeah, let's get through the football season first. Okay. And then, Lamel, for you, I mean, obviously you had some other G5 offers, but what had struck you about West Point that said, I want to be here?
I went up to the campus for the Night of the Hudson. It's what they do for juniors. It was like a junior day. And I think what really struck me was the coaches, how they made me feel. You know, I can't remember what they said, but how they made me feel really impacted me committing to Army. So.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, you've also outdone me on the bucket list, because that's one place I want to go see is West Point. And so you already have the advantage on me about that.
It's beautiful.
And so one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, now you all are aware of the Commanders in Chief Trophy on this.
Yes,
where,
sir. Again,
for those who don't know, Army and the Air Force and the United States Naval Academy will play each other during the course of the season, and whoever wins them, whoever beats both, gets that trophy, and it rotates. Now, in the event of a tie, I'm not sure how they solve the tiebreaker on this, but I just want to know, have we gotten a little early smack talk in on this yet? I'll start with you on this, Lincoln.
A little bit.
Okay.
We'll make comments to each other, but I think it'll be so cool to see him out there.
Yeah.
Before and after a game somewhere. whether that's Colorado Springs or by the Hudson.
Yeah. That'll be cool for sure. Okay, so Lincoln, we'll continue with you. Oh, actually, before I forget, what's been kind of the smack talk on your end about this?
Lincoln knows Army will always be better than the Air Force. But, yeah, we'll see how it goes once we get to college.
Gotcha on that. Okay, so Lincoln, let's turn it back to you about the quarterback situation still being up in the air. I hate, for lack of a better way of putting that. But so what are the things that you and Nash are doing to kind of not only push each other, but to help put yourselves in a position so that if this does turn into a rotation throughout the season, how you all want to maximize performance on that?
Yeah, behind closed doors, whether that's the weight room or film room, practice, we're always encouraging each other. Me and Nash are really good friends, and we have a good relationship, so we want good for each other.
Okay, and then obviously you playing the slot, so you're going to be out on the field. And of course, you caught a big pass. I think that led to maybe the second touchdown, if memory serves, on that, but down to the 6-yard line. So when it's in that situation, it's kind of like you have to develop chemistries with the receivers, but then again, Nash has to develop chemistry with the receivers, and you happen to be one of them. So that I would think that there's been a lot of talk about how do we work together in certain things like this. What's that been like with him?
Yeah, 100%. I think it honestly comes naturally for us. Because in practice I'll get some reps at slot, and we've always had it down. We like connecting.
Okay. And then let's talk to you about this in terms of Lamel with this secondary. With, it has a chance to be a really good secondary. Almost, I don't want to say almost, but that one that you saw in 2023 with those D1 guys, really, really epic. And you guys, if you think about you and Cameron Hall at the safeties, Alex Patton and Jordan Hall at the corners, what do you see from this group? And I know everyone's frustrated because we had 2 interceptions that were right in hands and then were dropped, and we won't get into that, but you'll get those. But what's the potential of the secondary?
I think we have a lot of potential. Like you were saying about the 23 group, they were amazing. But I feel like we're as good as them. They set the example for the DBs that are supposed to come through Aledo, and I think me and Cam starting last year really put us in a leadership spot for the defense, especially the DBs. So me and him helping Alex and Jordan, and Alex and Jordan are young, but they know what they're doing. So we have a lot of potential. Yeah, with Jordan, because obviously everyone knows he's a sophomore. He's coming off an injury last year, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to try and pick on him to see how he can react to that. What have you seen from his work ethic? His work ethic is up there. He knows people are going to pick on him. They know about his injury, so he's breaking on balls. Breaking up balls practice. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. All right, and then let's wrap this up about the challenge of playing Lancaster. Obviously, you guys won this game last year, 37-27. But it's a different team for them. So what's the challenge when you were looking at them on film, and as you're preparing? I'll start with you on this, Lincoln. What's going to be important for you guys on Friday night?
Just executing more of the passing game. Continue to execute the running game. They have a fast secondary, but I think we can beat them as long as we do our jobs. I think that's what it comes down to. If everyone does their job and their job only, don't try to do too much. I think we'll work as a unit pretty well.
And then what about for you, Lamel?
I like what Lincoln said about doing our job. Everybody filling their gaps during their assignment, executing the job, making sure we don't miss tackles, and just sticking to the plan.
All right.
We'll win the game.
All right, guys. A lot of fun to have you all on with us. First of all, congratulations on being named captains, and congratulations on your commitments to both Army and Air Force. We look forward to watching you throughout the course of the season. To my immediate left is Lincoln Tubbs. To my far left is Lamel Swanson. Let's give them a big hand for their joining us here.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up this podcast, we want to remind you that the Aledo podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30, exit Las Vegas Trail, and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Again, a reminder that the Bearcats are going to be on the road this Friday night down in Lancaster in South Dallas County. That's right between I-35 and I-45 if you're looking for an exit there. And then they will have their 7 o'clock kickoff against the Lancaster Tigers. Pre-game show on 92.1 Hank FM will begin at 6:30. So for my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM promotion staff, thank you for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. Back at our usual time next week, Monday at 7 o'clock with coach and selected players. We'll look back to the Lancaster game, and we'll look ahead to the district opener against the Brewer Bears. Have a great week, everybody. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
To the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com.